Now start the recording. 1, 2, 3. Starting.
Welcome to Gems of Yoga teacher training program. I'm excited that you have decided to take on this training, and we have 9 modules in this. The first module is History of Yoga, where I take my students with the various lineage of how yoga started from Mohenjo-daro, Indus Valley, how it found its way with Vivekananda going to USA and a lot of Americans flocking India to find gurus, and a lot of yoga prodigies like Jiddu Krishnamurti, Ramakrishna Paramahansa traveling to USA and teaching individuals and forming Ananda Yoga and forming Bikram Yoga. Bikram was taught by the brother of Paramananda, Yogananda, forming Yogada, and how the whole movement of yoga created interest so that the American mind, which was so physical oriented with bodybuilding, started to integrate yoga into their YMCAs, and they started to actually come up with a very athletic yoga. It was at this time we saw the rise of something called power yoga, and we had people like Brian Crest, and we had people like we had Warner Brothers taking interest all the way from Hollywood in coming up with his sensational Ashtanga yoga videos, which became very famous. Richard Hittleman wrote a book which was Practicing Yoga in 28 Days, which sold in America more than 2.5 million copies, and it was the time when yoga was finally arriving at the Hollywood apart from the Bollywood, and yoga became really big. It became a massive industry. A lot of people started to deal in yoga products. They started to flock Malaysia. Like Bali is even now a hub for yoga. They started to go to Nepal, which was before India. A lot of Buddhist yoga came into light, and we saw the formation of Tantra yoga, formation of Tibetan yoga. We saw how Viruchna, Tibetan Tantra yoga, came into light. The 6 yogas of Naropa came into light, and a lot of English people and a lot of American, after being surrounded with a lot of Indianism, started to look towards Buddhism, because Buddhism was very rich, as a lot of Indian yogis, when they were threatened by Muslim invasions and the British, they actually, to safeguard their meditation wisdom, uh, forwarded this movement and went to the Himalayas at that time, which later got called Nepal and Tibet. So a lot of meditation wisdom is found in Buddhist and Tibetan yoga, which are famous with the name of Yantra Yoga, which we teach at Gems of Yoga, and which involves mudras, which involves Mahayana Yoga, which involves the diamond that cut through the stone. And so the yoga became a very popular movement, and became not only a domain of Indians, where it originated from, but also Americans. Irish people started to practice yoga. Finnish people started to practice yoga. It spread in Australia, so much so that the main branch of Bihar School of Yoga, a lot of them is actually, even they have the first university from where you can actually learn yoga, and it's recognized at the graduation level. So yoga has actually become very global, traveling from India to China, Tibet. We even have something called Tao Yoga, where they have integrated the Taoist and Taoist philosophy into yoga and created something same, but with a different expression, which is more in sync with the philosophy that a lot of Chinese and a lot of Korean understand. We have something called we have Mahayana Yoga. We have in Korea, we have a yoga movement which is also very popular, and so a lot of people are actually now Japan. I mean, how can we forget this country, because which is so spiritual in nature, which tends to have repeated natural disasters, but in spite of it, it stands like a mountain, and a lot of ceremonies in Japanese temple till today, I mean, are very, very close to our yogic meditation rituals. Their fire ceremony and the Indian yagnas are so close to each other. We also have in Japan what we call it as the Shinto meditation, which is a very, very pleasant meditation where calls it a kami, where you are worshipping the five elements, and which in yoga we basically call as bhutopa upasana. Bhut means the panch mahabhut, which is earth, water, fire, air, and sky. So if you look at the full history of yoga, it's actually become very, very global, and a lot of schools have sprung up, which is based either on the name of the teacher or they're based on an ideology. For example, we have now, if you ask somebody which yoga do you practice, now actually, originally speaking, according to the Vedas, the yoga that is practiced or the types of the yoga that is there is Raja Yoga, yoga of the mind, Hatha Yoga, yoga of the body, and you have Jnana Yoga, which is yoga of wisdom, of self-inquiry. You have Bhakti Yoga, which is yoga of surrender and devotion, and you have the Mantra Yoga, which is the yoga of the sound and converting the sound energy into light and form energy. We have the yoga of karma, the karma yoga, selfless service. Gita, the scripture of Gita talks very nicely about karma yoga. These are actually the main yoga. And then you have something called Kriya Yoga, which is not exactly a type of yoga. It is a combination of 2 to 3 different kinds of yoga, like your mudras and your Hatha Yoga and your Raja Yoga and your Bhakti Yoga together is called Kriya Yoga. We at Gems of Yoga follow primarily the wisdom from a lot of different traditions, and based on the personality of our student, we then define what is the right form of yoga for them. But definitely in Kali Yuga, everybody has to start with Hatha Yoga, which is the yoga of the body, because our physical energy has not that much of expression in our day-to-day life, as the lives have become sedentary and the mind is completely very, very active, and that is why dissipated and scattered and lack of attention. So when you practice the Hatha Yoga, it helps you to align your energy. So our teacher training is primarily dealing, apart from Jnana Yoga, also into the Hatha Yoga, where we have different forms of yoga called the Ashtanga Vinyasa, the Flow Yoga, the Kriya Yoga, we have the Kundalini Yoga, and all is physically oriented. You need to understand a little bit about the physiology, and so I will take up more about the history of yoga in my next, next broadcast. And I hope that my yoga teacher training people, they will listen to this video and gain some wisdom. Thank you so much. The light in me honors the light in you. Hari Om Tat Sat.